Yo, what is up? Okay, so this video we are gonna talk about the Ritualist beta. Yeah. I am not going to be making a huge series of the other 8 professions because, quite frankly, I don't really play the other 8 professions. And okay, let me back that up. I do sometimes dip into other professions, but we're not going to talk about those. If you want more of those extended guides of stuff like that or extended opinions, better place to look would definitely be Mighty Teapot, Muckluck, um, I think Wood and Potatoes as well. Definitely check those guys out if you want more of the like generalized, um, kind of all in one. I mean, there's some other people's too, but we're not covering all of that. We are specifically just covering Ritualist. Um, Olive Branch. I was not too impressed with the Evoker. I was pretty hyped about that. I was pretty excited about that. I ain't gonna lie. I just kind of didn't feel like it was there. Just saying. Honestly, and my favorite spirit, honestly, it was Rockin' the Toad. I didn't think that the Earthen Toad would be. I knew the Earthen Toad was gonna be kind of fun. The Earthen Toad was actually probably my favorite, honestly. Real talk. Anyhow, we're not here to talk about the Evoker. We're here to talk about Ritualist because, quite frankly, Ritualist has taken up residence in my mind, and it has made its home, and it is camped. And I have some thoughts that I'd like to share about Ritualist. Some good, and some things I feel like needs work. I do think that it is a pretty good profession, kind of as is. It's got some solid. It's got a solid bone structure. Um, it just needs to be. There needs to be some refinement and some things that either need to be cleared up or added to kind of give that class that not only just that RP, but that kind of usability and utility and all that other stuff. So we're gonna start with the good. I got my notes here off to the side so that I don't completely lose track because I get distracted very easily. So, as I stated already, the roleplay, the RP of it, is really cool. I like the whole aspect of like you turn into Shroud and it's like almost like this puppeteer kind of thing where you're kind of like you're manipulating the spirits and you're getting them to do what you want and oh man all these people they don't know what's going on but they can't stop the spirits because you're the one controlling them. It's cool. It's a cool fantasy. Um, I'm vibing with it. Okay, I'm vibing with the cool fantasy. What's up? As a healer support slash kind of boon giver, um, it's there. It's there. I don't think it's top, but I can see that maybe with a little bit more refinement based off of, what ANET determines is something that's going to be, I don't know, positive or, whatever feedback that they get to help refine and polish the class a little bit more. I'm not going into specific details. Uh, Mostly just because I don't have a whole lot of experience playing support. And in fact, I've wanted to get into playing support, and I thought I was going to do that on my Tempest. My first real support experience was through Ritualist, and I actually had a lot of fun. Um, so Ritualist support, I think it's there. Especially like it's the fact that it gives like group stability. You can give that off twice because there's a Grandmaster trait that you can take, and it's basically you when you summon said spirit, you on him, it does the shatter immediately, and then it resets. So then you can summon it again and then shatter it again. So that's just like It's not only double healing, but it's also double the boon duration, double stability. It's awesome. It's awesome. It feels really good. Um, and that then goes to my final point that I have written down here, is that it feels good to play, even though it feels a little janky. Um, it feels a little jank. It's not it on one side I can see why the shroud is there, and on the other side I'm kind of like, why even bother going to shroud or stay in shroud for that matter just to have the spirits persist? And I mean, I know you can have them persist outside of shroud for a given amount of time. But they're kind of, I don't know. I don't know. Which I'll bring it over to some of my productive criticism. So, my first point of criticism is that the spirits they feel too passive. It feels like you are reacting to things, you're reacting to situations while then being proactive. And I don't know if that's something that I particularly enjoy or like in a particular class. I don't like needing to always feel like the spirits feel more of a reactive rather than an active kind of play to it. Um it's they are a little slow. The spirits are a little slow, especially with the auto attacks that they do, because after you summon them and they do their initial thing, then they shoot out like the little like the bolts. I think it's the auto attack. It's the same auto attack that you use in the shroud, which is the little bolts, and it just kind of feels like they're just kind of like uh, like it feels not very impactful. Now, granted, yeah, you can't target them in the world. They operate kind of like a phantasm, like mesmer phantasms. Uh, I don't, I don't know. Um, they just feel kind of like slowish and sluggish, and they don't feel like you're. It's like if you want to go push something, I would not recommend using a spirit to do that. In its current beta state, I would not want to push using the spirits because they don't have enough of a presence to really, there's no spike damage, anything really. Uh, I just like, you would have to piggyback off, especially if you're running kind of like a DPS build variant, which by the way was not the greatest. The numbers just weren't, they just weren't there. They weren't serviceable or anything, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, you could run a DPS variant, and yeah, you could eventually kill something. Yeah, those numbers need to be bumped up just a bit. But it's more than it's not just the numbers that need to get bumped up. It's how the class operates. Um, which will actually, it's a good segue into my second point here, where the DPS kind of feels bad. The spirit's auto attack feels very dull, and there's really no reason to stay in shroud once you've deployed your spirits and once you've activated or shattered the skills. There's kind of no reason to stay in shroud other than if you want kind of to use the shroud bar as an extra life pool, because it operates the same way as core necro and reaper, where if you take damage, it'll attack your life force right here. This is your life force bar, it'll attack your life force, and this is what will get drained and won't touch your health pool until after you get out of. So if I go into Reaper Shroud here, if I get attacked, it's gonna take away from this, not this. But the second I jump out of Shroud, now I'm susceptible to health damage, which now I'm gonna start taking damage here. So if you're in Shroud, this becomes your ability bar / health pool until you get out of Shroud, and then that's then your health pool for those who don't know. Which I'm assuming if you watch this video, you probably already knew that. But if you didn't, that's how that works. There's no other reason to stay in Shroud on Ritualist other than to use that as a means of extra life. Because the auto attack is just really slow. Your auto attack for Shroud is really slow. And I don't feel like it just does a whole lot. Honestly, it's not like my favorite auto attack is honestly it's gonna have to be the Reaper Scythe and the Harbinger bolts, because those ones I just feel like they just do. I feel like that's a good one. And even Core Necro you can get some serviceable time. I just don't feel like the bolts in the Ritualist auto attack was it's got some splash damage, but I mean it's not like, you're kind of going like one at a time. You're just kind of like go and I don't know, maybe kind of double it up, have them do like the whole two-hand motion where it's like you're shooting two bolts in a succession rather than, maybe just one. Maybe I don't know, I'm just spitballing some suggestions. Now, and actually, I love how I am segueing into these next points. Yes, I was just talking about the Shroud auto attack needs to either cast faster, or if you kept the auto attack, because the Ritualist auto attacks kind of has a dual purpose function. It functions as an attack, and it also functions as a spiritual marker. So if you deploy your spirits and you auto attack someone, you will mark them, and the spirits then will focus their attention on the person that you have marked, which is a useful thing. And if you auto attack somebody else, the spirits will then target that other person. So it acts kind of as a, hey, target this person. I like that. I think that's nice. To kind of lean into more of that, puppeteer kind of thing, I feel as though that the spirits should have, and the Ritualist person, speaking of the auto attack, if you're not going to make the auto attack any faster or anything, make it a chain. Give it a chain auto attack, and also give that something to that effect onto the spirits as well, just so that they have a little bit more of a presence and they feel like, I don't know, they feel more impactful outside of their initial shadow skills. Because if you use the shadow skills and then that's kind of it, they're in their auto attack form, they're literally just, they're not only taking up visual space, but they're also useless in a sense. I did on some occasions, it was actually really cool, where you could use them to get aggro off you, because the some of the mobs would actually attack the spirits, and because the spirits can't be killed and or targetable, they would still attack. And I was just like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. Like, it's just like, yeah, keep wailing on this spirit there. Let me just keep, nailing you with this. It's just kind of, it was, I thought that was really cool. But it was silly. But otherwise, they're just kind of, there. They just don't really do anything. I feel like the minions actually do more than than the spirits do outside of their shatter skills. And then the other thing that I came across, which I thought was kind of weird, was you had additional buttons. Okay, you had for all intents and purposes an F2, an F3, and an F4. I had them bind a little differently, but you have those additional buttons, and you actually didn't need to press any of those buttons because your summoning skills would be 2, 3, and 4. This was the spirit of anguish. This was the spirit of wanderlust, and this was the spirit of preservation. And you had your shadow skills. I'm just going to call them shadow skills for all intents and purposes. And all you had to do was once you entered into Shroud and then you activated and you summoned one of your spirits, you could just hit that button again, that same exact button again, and it would use the shadow skill, is what it would do. Same thing would apply to these other ones. That's in my testing, that's my experience, that's what I happened. There was no reason to press any of these other buttons if you could just hit these buttons again and have like the same thing happen. So there was no point. There was absolutely no point in having extra buttons up here if these buttons down here did the same thing. It made no sense to me. Again, I don't know if that's anybody else's experience or if I was just, experience a weird bug or something like that, but every single time that's what I would do. I would actually go out of my way to test to see if they would use those shatter skills if I hit those buttons, and they would, without ever having to touch the other buttons up here. So that leads me to think that if you can summon a spirit, right? Because we're talking about like kind of that puppeteer kind of thing, right? If you summon a spirit initially to bring it into the world, okay? And once the spirit is brought into the world, I don't know if you need to maybe flip a card or something, but these buttons need to be different in order to validate the presence of the buttons that are up here. Because these are your shatter buttons, and then these are your summoning buttons. If you, I know I'm reiterating. You summon them, and if you hit this button again, it uses a shadow skill. There's no reason to have two sets of of buttons that do the same thing. It's a total waste of time. Instead, if you summoned the spirits, and this will contribute to having the spirits be a little bit more proactive in the engagements and fights, have a skill that they can use, an additional skill. Whether that's like, okay, so, this is the spirit of anguish right here, right? Not actually, but, we're visualize with me, okay? Visualize with me. You're in your shroud, okay? You're in your shroud, all right? And you have the spirit here, okay, if we were ritualist. And, you have all the other stuff. I'm sorry, I need to add pizzazz. So if you had summoned them into the world, and then, it's kind of like, what am I thinking? It's a signet move for elementalist. I'm thinking of the elite one. I don't know off the top of my head the elite skill where you can summon a like spectral like companion or something, or some kind of like elemental based off of the attuned element. So like if you're fire, you would summon like this fiery phoenix looking thing. Seraph, I don't know what it's called. And the card would flip for it to do its ability. So the card would flip, and then you could use its ability. So it gives you, it gives the spirit a purpose to exist in the world outside of just the shatter skills. And then that would go on cooldown as normal skills would normally look, and same thing would be for the other two spirits, and have them do sort of a respective command. So if the spirit of anguish, the card flipped and it like summoned a well at someone's location, for example, instead of because it would summon in, it would do its little charge beam thing, and then after that you can then hit a skill, and then I don't know, it'll summon a well, and it's got a radius and it's doing its thing to kind of add some proactiveness to the spirits themselves. And then for Spirit of Wanderlust, you can have that, I don't know, lock down an area, or give like an area reflect. Maybe he's like putting up a big like reflective barrier or something like that. I just think that, come on, thinking outside the box here. I think it's really cool. Spirit of Preservation, that one could do like an aerial cleanse, something like that, just kind of like a big condi cleanse area, and maybe some regeneration or something like that, but something to give the spirits some more proactivity, so that if you wanted to just attack, you could just use like the first spirit and stuff like that. I hope does that idea make sense? I hope that makes sense. I think it's a cool idea, to be honest. um and then that could validate the shatter skills. Not then you can use those shatter skills, and then that would give you a reason to stay in Shroud, to continue to use the spirit skills after you use the shadow skills, because once you use the shadow skill, the spirit goes away, to which then you can summon another one, but you still have to wait for the shadow cooldown before it can do its thing. So it just opens up more opportunity for the spirits to exist, which would validate the whole Shroud mechanic to begin with, in my opinion. If you followed along, fantastic. I hope that was like a constructive thought process. Um, Otherwise, there's really just no reason. And for the spirits that remain outside of the Shroud, for example, you know, I don't know, you might need to change up their auto attack to either be faster, or maybe instead of a bolt they send a wave. Something that kind of gives it a reason for the spirits to be around, because otherwise right now they just don't do a whole lot. And my last kind of critique is that some of the utility skills, like on a visual perspective of things, I don't know. It's you activate the skill and you have a glowing orb, which, albeit that's cool, but I feel like there needs to be. It's almost polarizing, because this when you go into Shroud and some of the spirits, it's very visual, and then the utility skills are kind of the opposite, where they're very minimum, and there's not a whole lot of visual to go based off of. There's not a lot of visualness to it, and you don't really feel like you're just like, did I activate that skill or did I not activate the skill? I can see it's on cooldown, and I see that I have this orb, but I don't know, maybe give it a like a swirl and stuff. Like if I activate this skill, um what is this? You're all weaklings. You can tell I activated that skill. If I activate something like the well here, there's very clearly, something visual there that says that I activated the well. The little orb things are kind of, and you can't really tell, because you can use all the utility skills, and if you use the elite and all your utilities, you have like 4 orbs, and you can't really tell. You just have 4 glowing orbs around you. Okay, um, I I don't know, something to give it that visualness that skill is working. I don't really know. Uh, it needs something. Maybe you're like you've got like maybe it's a glowing orb that maybe not necessarily orbits around you, but maybe you have like an essency effect, kind of like kind of like what this is having. Like if you go like into Shroud here, I'm trying to see if no, I think the better example might be Ignore that. I need to rename all this. Better example might be like for Brain Harbinger, where it's kind of like, you see how it kind of has like this, like, and you get into it, you see how you have this like effect here where you kind of have like this like cool like green essency effect. Maybe something like that, something to tell you that you've got an empowerment of some kind. And then once that effect wears off, I don't know, just something visually to tell you as the player and others around you that you have been buffed with the splinter weapons, other than an orb. Because I mean, I don't know, is there like an orb fetish around here? Because I just feel like everything has orbs. It's Orb City Central, you know what I mean? So I don't really know, but yeah. So that was kind of my comprehensive thoughts on what I thought about Ritualist. I think Ritualist is a solid spec that has, that has really good, a really good foundation. But I feel like the ideas of it just need to be fleshed out just a little bit more to really give it that solid take. So let me know what you all think about the Ritualist. And hey, if there was another class that kind of really took you by surprise, or you didn't think that you would like it, mention it down in the comments down below. And as always, say hi to your neighbor, be kind to one another, and remember that the Lord Jesus Christ is our only hope for salvation. Till then, catch y'all on the next one.